So one of the nice things about being on a homestead is you get your own well. And your own well typically will create an issue for you at least once a year. We had another system before this one, and the starting mechanism, the capacitor, everything was in a box up top. We had to go out about a year ago, and they finally put in a pump with everything built into the pump, so everything is at the bottom where the well is at. So this time when I came home this evening, I've got a busted pipe directly up underneath the pressure tank. We upgraded this pressure tank probably about a year ago, and that upgrade right there, even though it was a used one, I believe it's about an 80 gallon tank, and the water quality, not necessarily quality, but pressure inside the house is a heck of a lot better. You take a full shower without having the pump kick in, because when that pump kicks in, you're starting to get to the low end of the pressure, and the pump kicks in, slowly starts building up the pressure in your house. So upgrading to a larger tank is definitely beneficial. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I gotta cut the pipe and roll the tank on its side and see exactly what broke, if it's the metal or if just the PVC broke. Yeah, that's why I had to change shirts, because that one was too light colored and there's a lot of rust. Another 15 more minutes, it'll set, let it dry, and I can pressure it back up and see how it holds. A couple things that you would want to keep on hand would be, for like an inventory thing, would be some of these spare parts. Spare parts aren't considered a wasteful item, especially if this were to have happened in the middle of the night and I would have had to have gotten up to repair the water. Lowe's, Ace, whoever your local hardware store is, they're not going to be open at midnight, and if you've got to get a glass of water, go to the restroom, whatever the case may be, you're going to want that water running unless you stock water, on the shelves. One of the things I wanted to talk about, which I'll probably bring up in another video, is the tool Evernote. I just started using that probably about 3 weeks ago. Really didn't know much about it. I'd had it for probably about a year. Just saw it on every bit of advertisement for apps to have, and I tried it about a year ago, I think it was, and I actually thought it was a complete waste of time. I downloaded all these little accessory apps that go to it and never could figure it out. And I finally, on YouTube, went and saw a how-to video on how to actually use it, and that tool is extremely valuable. So the parts that I'm going to need to keep on hand that I just ran out of, I'll go ahead and plug those into Evernote, and those will be spare parts lists that I need to keep here all the time. One of the things that we used to keep all the time were the spare capacitors, the spare pressure switches. Those things are simple fixes. You can do them on your own. The electricity involved in the pressure switch isn't as long as you know where the breaker's at, you can test to make sure that you don't have power there, which is very simple with some of the newer meters. They're pretty much dummy proof. You can plug them up to AC DC and it's going to tell you what the voltage is, if there is any voltage. And mostly what you're going to be looking for is a lack of voltage when you're replacing one of these switches. Setting the pressure on them, they're typically preset. You can go through and reset the pressure to whatever it is that you want to kick in, out, and you want to kick out at. So wells are a vital not accessory. They're vital to have on the homestead. So you definitely need to keep it going all the time. Well, not literally going all the time, because that'll cost you more money in the long run and shorten the span of your pump. So hopefully this has been somewhat helpful for you. Larger tank, definitely a thumbs up on that one. Hey, so I just wanted to finish up by covering some of the tools that I used, that I typically use when I work with PVC or anything to do with the well. Sawzall or a hacksaw, that'll be fine. I like this one because it definitely gets the job done a lot faster. Crescent wrench. This is a 10-inch pipe wrench, and purple primer. Doesn't really matter who it's from. I've bought different brands before, and they've all pretty much work about the same. If there's a difference, somebody give me a holler, let me know. But anyways, primer, clean up your pipe insides. The PVC that we store here, it's a little bit dirt inside, so this helps clean it up. Medium blue PVC cement, typically what I buy, doesn't matter what the brand is. Give this at least 15 minutes or so to set up before you go apply pressure to it. I did have to use chisel. I had to use a chisel because the PVC broke off in the pipe. So I just used that basically to break it into two pieces and then pop one piece out at a time, and typically you can wedge it in and it'll like cave in on itself. So I use this, and then of course the hammer to drive it through. But this is typically what I use. I don't know if you notice that I shove the PVC between my knee to act as a vise to cut. And this and the tape measure. The tape measure is not here, but tape measure is pretty much the only tools that I use for doing any kind of PVC work around the property and on the homestead. So one of the other nice things that I noticed today was, since the garage has been cleaned up, everything's been organized, everything's been put in a spot to where I just have to pull the one item off. That was probably the easiest PVC repair job I have done in the 13 years that we've been on this property. Normally I would go in that garage and I would be looking in a box that I knew that it was in the box, but I didn't know where the box was at. So this is now left out in the open on a little shelf by itself. The hammers, if you've seen the previous one, yeah, I've got a couple hammers that are mounted on top of each other. I still haven't found a place for these yet. Crescent wrench. Crescent wrench is in the tool bag, the pipe wrench is hanging on the wall, and this has its own little PVC pocket that it slides into. So definitely a much easier project to do. I can actually go start on another project and wrap that one up for the evening, but definitely huge difference. So if you like this video, like it, subscribe. We look forward to hearing your comments. Hey, one last thing, tire gauge. You're going to need a tire gauge because you're going to want to periodically check the pressure on the bladder in this. The tank will typically tell you what the pressure should be set to, but this is the time that you want to go ahead and check it and add pressure to it, is when it's completely drained out and empty. So I think ours is set for 30 psi, which I just checked, and it's sitting at 29, so I'm not going to really touch it. So typically there's a little plate, data tag on it that'll tell you what your pressure should be set to. So I typically check it whenever I've got to do work to it like this. You can check it when the water pressure is low, see what your air pressure is at that point, just before the pump kicks in. So just one little bit of advice and one more tool to kind of keep around. Doesn't matter. These are dime a dozen at the auto store. So just go ahead and pick one of these up as well. All right.